What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Big Mike Little Ant. This is episode 14. It's pretty cool for us. We are steadily moving along. Also, make sure you check out our recent review of New Mutants and also the spoiler discussion where we go into strict details. So, guys, make sure you watch that. Make sure you've seen the movie before you watch spoiler discussion, unless you just don't care. Let's say that. But thank you again for checking us out. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we're going to get this thing started. So, Big Mike, first of all, how are you doing, brother?
Man, I'm good, man. It's Sunday. It's Labor Day weekend, just to let people know what kind of what we're around right now. As he just said, New Mutants came out last week, which we went to see it together, which he didn't say it on the channel, too. So it's unlike our previous reviews. We were actually at the movies together and a great day together, right? That we had.
Yeah,
so,
great day. We went out to eat. We went to the mall.
Yeah, it was to the mall, went out to eat. I was able to hang out with my favorite two people in the world, Anthony and Sandy. Speaking of them, shouts out to the Sandy and Anthony show, Thursday night to 9 p.m. live on YouTube as well.
Thanks, sir.
No doubt. I'm going to a barbecue at my dad's house later today. Pick up my daughter. So it's a beautiful weekend, man. How about yourself?
Really cool stuff happened for me. I am a big tech guy, as you guys know, wearing this around my neck. And I actually got, I don't want to say hired, I don't think that's the term, but Stadia Source is the largest news outlet for Google Stadia, and I'm actually working with them. I became a streamer for them, so I got to do I did my first stream, I think Friday night, and I did a stream yesterday, so that's cool. So I got the streaming under my belt, because you got to get their transition and how things change, blah blah blah, and you got to memorize the script, whatever. So that's been cool. And I started my Stadia Avengers channel for the new game that came out, so I've been real busy with stuff around the house, but now I'm gonna I'm gonna spend today playing that game and streaming it and stuff. So I've been a busy guy, but it's a lot of good things going on. So
yeah, I'm also busy too. Even though I went to a barbecue today, I didn't even mention my fantasy. It's that time of year again. Football is back. That's cool. I am the commissioner of a fantasy football league, and my fantasy draft is also tonight with my guys as well. And speaking of that, I'm going to be also doing a football show during the football season, yet to be titled yet. Detailing and talking about the game with the same guys that I do my half-court trap show from. So busy guys.
Yeah, guys, make sure you check out Half Court Trap. If you are a basketball fan, you could also find it on this channel as well. It's pretty cool. Mike got, like you said, but it's Mike hosting a podcast he's doing. He got a group of guys, and they're all discussing, basketball. It's pretty cool.
Yes. But let's get to our show, Big Mike.Little.Ant. We're back. We're back, and okay. I know it's already been a week, and I'll start. I know it's already been a week, and I've discussed this already on a couple different shows. Mental Theater, shouts out, and Food for the Culture, Wednesdays at 9. But I haven't heard your thoughts yet, so I want to let you start detailing the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. Your thoughts on three things: your thoughts on the passing itself, him as an actor overall, and what he meant to the culture, and just your experience with the movie Black Panther. If you can give me.
Okay. So first thing is, I was really shocked when I first heard about it. Is you guys put it in our chat, and I really thought it was fake, because first of all, he's such a young guy, right? And I feel like people have the messed up attention span to come up with some crazy someone died and throw it out there and people believe it. So when I first heard, I was like, this can't be real, again, because he's so young. What I give credit to him is people in Hollywood never get a chance to go out like he did. He didn't have to have tabloids or no crazy nothing. He kept it to himself and his family. And that's awesome, because I feel like when you become a Hollywood star, you don't have your own life anymore. Your life is everyone else's. Everyone has a say-so in your life. So I was very pleased to see, no one knew. It was a complete shock to 99.9% of the world, So I'm really happy that, I feel like he got to go out on his own terms. That's cool. Two, I didn't like Black Panther as much. I felt it was a good movie. It was a decent comic book movie, but it wasn't my favorite comic book movie. I actually said it was the Tyler Perry of comic book movies because it was more like, you know, the undertone of the movie was more like the family having issues type superhero movie. But I think he did a great job. I think he was casted well. Like, I can't think who else. Like, I didn't know of him that well, but I felt like he played the role good, and didn't make me feel like, oh, this guy should have been Black Panther. I felt like he owned the role. For me, he was Black Panther. And I'll say what that movie did, because I can't just give credit. Like, yes, he was the main star, but that movie in general, having a almost all Black cast, was pretty cool. And what it did for the community, no other Marvel or comic book movie could say it. It's so prevalent in the in the culture, in the minority culture, that it's such a big deal. I mean, people showed that movie so much love, so much support, and it's unlike something you ever seen before, you know. So I think that was cool too, and I think also what you said, there was like Black writers, Black, like a lot of people behind the scene was Black as well,
Director.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Director. Yeah.
So
Ryan Coogler. Yeah.
yeah, so that was pretty cool. And what was your third thing? I think I kind of tied in 2 and 3.
Well, before Black Panther, he's been out before that. So did you watch any of his work before? Did you like him as an actor? Did you know him as an actor before that?
I
Or
didn't know him because he was in something else he was in that I seen. I didn't know that. I didn't, didn't realize. I didn't put 2 and 2 together when I seen him in Black Panther. So, yeah.
gotcha. Okay. So I'm surprised. Did you watch? So you didn't watch any of it, like 42
No,
or
I didn't see that, but there was something before that. When I listened to you guys, shout outs to Mental Theater, another show we do, but I missed it last week. You guys mentioned some of the movies he did, and I was like, oh, I seen that, but I didn't know when Black Panther came out. I wasn't like, oh, he was the guy from such and such.
I got you. Okay. All right. And I mean, I guess we can't talk about it because we did our mental theater. So I don't want to get your thoughts on what you have any ideas of what Marvel should do with him as a character moving forward. Yes.
Yeah, so when the talks was that there would be a female Black Panther, there'd be a female Thor. I know in the comic books some of that stuff has happened. So for me, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was weird to write him off because he did such a good job. I don't know how Marvel sometimes decide, hey, let's go in this direction. So, and I know some people say there's like a female agenda, but I didn't have a problem with it as long as the new Black Panther executed the role good. So now it makes sense, like you said on Mental Theater, that Feige knew, right? So Feige knew, let's set this up. And I guess you said that he was going to get written off in Black Panther 2. So now that he already passed, now you guys also talked about, because I'm rehashing what you said, but I agree with you guys that I think Chloe said it. Maybe he should be in a suit. Someone should be in a suit playing as him, so you don't really physically have to see him. And then Black Panther gets killed, and then the mantle goes over to his sister. So
Yeah.
that would, for me, that would be okay.
Actually, I said that, but I was reiterating my guy Chris. Chris, or
Yep.
whatever. He actually said that to me first, and I thought it would be a good idea, so I put it out there on Mental Theater. But I think it'll
Hey,
be a good
give
idea.
him his shout out, Bruise with the Cruise, man.
Shouts out to Chris, Bruce with the Cruise. You can follow him at Beason, Beason, on Facebook as well. It's on there as well.
Yeah, man.
So,
Like to give shout outs. Also, shout out to Chloe. She's also in the Mental Theater group with us as well. So,
yep. Shouts out to Chloe Diz. You can find her at Chloe Diz on IG and stuff like that. So,
and we got to shout out Josh Warren.
We do. We gotta do that. No. We can shout out.
Might as well. We already shout out the Mental Theater crew. So.
Yeah. Who was the creator of Mental Theater, Mr. Josh Warren? That's it. So, but no, I gave my thoughts. So I'll be brief this time. I already gave it a couple times, but I thought that just the fact that he did like 4 or 5 or 6, I don't know how many, but movies after being diagnosed and treated, I thought was amazing. I think that he knew how powerful him playing the Black Panther would be for the Black culture, and I think that he kind of like gutted it out, and said, I'm going to go ahead and do this and stay in shape and do what I got to do. You also saw that after his diagnosis, he spent lots of time visiting kids who were also diagnosed with different forms of cancer after Black Panther, and lifting their spirits and
Right.
stuff like that. Even knowing, you know, what he was going through. I thought that I thought that his team, the fact that they kept it a secret, kind of like you said, I thought that's amazing too. That shows loyalty, and you don't get that kind of loyalty unless you have good character yourself.
Right.
And stuff like that, because we know in this day and age, people will call TMZ and sell a story for $100,000 and call
And
it a
people
day.
leak. Yeah, everything gets leaked now.
Yeah, everything gets leaked, everything gets sold, you know, stuff like that. So that shows me that, you know, the much loyalty, and I think that in this day and age, like it kind of was refreshing to me. Not that he died, because I'm still hurt by that, and of course, R.I.P. him. But that it kind of took me back to a time to where like we did it. No, it wasn't announced by social media. We didn't know stuff or whatever like that, and people were able to be private and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So I kind of did like that. Unlike Tony, I did watch several of his movies, you know, 42, Jackie Robinson. I thought he brought a lot of Black characters to life, you know, which otherwise I wouldn't have known about. I know Jackie Robinson. I'm a sports fan, so I know about him. But to see it on the screen, I thought was a wonderful thing. James Brown, same thing. My mom, who I was just talking to earlier, that's her favorite musician of all time. You know, she grew up on James Brown. She still loves James Brown to this day. And that was, for her, it was almost sentimental to see James Brown brought to life on the screen. So I was happy to see that. Thurgood Marshall, I'm a huge historian, as a lot of people would know. So I know about Thurgood Marshall's story. I read up a lot about it. And that was a big thing because he doesn't look like Thurgood Marshall, but I don't think that matters anymore if you look at the person or not. And you could let me know what you think about that part. But as far as the character of Thurgood Marshall and what he did, again, a wonderful job he did with that. I didn't see Gods of Egypt. And so I don't want to go back
So
to watch that.
that's what I seen. Yeah. So it's crazy because that's my lane. I like whenever they come out with the superpowers and all that stuff. That's yeah, I seen that, but that was a while ago. So yeah, so that's why I didn't see him in that and think of him in Black Panther. Yeah.
Right. And I just thought like his personality, like he was unbothered. He never had drama. You never read about Chadwick Boseman in the press and stuff like that and whatnot. I just think he built himself up to be a great actor, and that he kind of used those attributes and show what he can do, and said, you hire me, and I'm going to do a great job. It wasn't more like I'm going to go out here and make myself super popular by posting crazy stuff and then make you want to hire me. So I liked him as a person and stuff like that, like from what I can see. So I think it's a big loss to the acting community, as well. I'm sorry, the film community, as well as the Black culture. So I think it's a big loss to both.
Yeah, because honestly, he nailed that role, and this was such a big movie for the Black community. Now, you and I did talk a long time ago on air. I don't remember what show it was on, but we both did agree that the part 2 probably won't be as good as, or not as good, but won't be as successful. Big. Yeah, as big, because we feel like a lot of people rushed out to see it. Because of the hype and everything and word of mouth, and because it was a Black film, but then it would die down a little bit. But I feel like either way, losing him as being the Black Panther again is going to be definitely hard. Like, even though there would be a female and she's a Black actress as well, but even we had Chloe Diz, who she loves when they're female black or they're female characters, and she still was like, man, they got to figure something out because I need a Black Panther. So.
Well, I will say this. You and I see things a little differently than some other people, especially at our ages right now. Like, we saw Wesley Snipes as Blade and stuff like that. So we don't look at him as like the first Black hero on the screen, Black Panther, because we saw other stuff. But if you're a kid that's like 12, 15 years old, you know what I mean, when Black Panther came out, like, this was really the first for you. And especially because you've been watching these Marvel movies every year and seeing only white male leads, for almost 10 years. So for you, it really was the first. So I can see how, like I said on the theater, those school buses were ready to go to these theaters, stuff like that. Because for those kids, that's why you see the kids, and the Black Panther costumes and stuff like that, because for them it's like doing the Wakanda Forever sign. I think for them it's because it's much bigger than it is for us.
I agree.
Like
No, I agree. That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like you said, like growing up, Black Panther, he was barely known, let alone a big character in the comic book world,
Right.
or the cartoons. But by the time that movie came out, they had Avengers cartoons with Black Panther, the prominent character. So again, those kids were happy to see, oh, this is a guy from the, I'm happy to see him come to life and stuff
Right.
like that. Kind of like we felt about X-Men in 2000. You know what I mean? They felt about Black Panther 2018 and stuff like that. So I think it's just a difference overall with that being said. So, but that's my thoughts on Chadwick Boseman.
That's cool.
So, later on, actually about God's music. When we talk about that, but
yeah, right.
We'll move forward. So we're gonna talk about the movies themselves, but let's talk about the theater.
All right, so hold on. Before we do that, I want to call a quick audible, right? So I want to say this is you guys, we're a funny group of people. We do funny stuff in our chats and in video, right? On shows. So these guys often have the, what I want to say, they like to make fun of me and mess with me, right? So I decided I want to do something funny as well, and I'm going to bring it to all of you guys. So I just sent you a little something in your Facebook Messenger, and I want you to watch it, and I'm also going to put it on screen for everybody. But I want you a little quick video, but I'll be quiet and let you watch it.
All right.
I'll watch it too.
Wow, somebody been busy. Okay.
So, I felt like, all right, you guys are messing with me. Yes, guys, I did the TikTok challenge, the flip the switch challenge. So I was in my wife's dress, right? And I didn't have a problem with it. So Josh thought it was funny to put it out there, right? Trying to make fun of me. Mike thought it was funny to
hold on. Josh put it out there on Poetic Charm Thursdays at 9 p.m. I just want to plug that, but go ahead.
Fair enough. And on YouTube. And Mike decided to take a video of me and my wife when we was at the mall playing checkers, the giant checkerboard, and he decided to edit it so it would look like I was a sore loser. And so they put it on, shout outs to Food for the Culture, right?
Yeah. No, it was the theater last week. Yeah.
Oh, that was actually, it was Mental Theater. Okay. Also, shout outs to Food for the Culture, a podcast Mike does. And so, and that's going to be going live soon again.
Soon. So we're working on Mr. Banks, who's in Houston right now. So
okay,
we're working on that.
So you guys can check out Food for the Culture also on YouTube. Anyway, So I took it upon myself when I watched Food for the Culture and I seen Josh laugh. I was like, that's reminiscent of the Joker's laugh. And I remember that funny thing with the little dog having a laugh. I said, you know what? I'm about to make a little video. So anyway, I'm sorry. So just so you know, yeah, you guys be making shots at me. Sometimes I just avoid it because I'm a clown. And but I think I get a little extra. So I sometimes I'm like, you know, I ain't got the energy for that because I'm going to be researching and finding dumb stuff and really try to make it whatever. Anyway, but just that's a warning shot. So yeah, Mike, listen, you open that door, you don't know what I'm bringing on the other side. All right.
Well, I do want to let people know that Anthony was acting like a sore loser though. Whatever. I just kind of used that part of it. His wife was already beating him in checkers. Am I not? Is that wrong? Okay.
You're
I'm correct. And she asked a rule in checkers, and I gave her the answer. And, it's a video.
That's actually not what happened. So when you watch the video and see that you gave me her the rule, you even hear me say, no, earlier, because you was like, she was playing and he was trying to like tell her whoa, make sure you watch out for that move. Like, wait, you're literally helping her make sure she didn't make a mistake so I could jump her. I don't see how you don't get my frustration. Like it's like it's like a UFC fight and she got her corner man and I'm in the fight, but I don't have my corner man.
Well, what I learned from you, whether it's probably video games or checkers or whatever, is that you don't like to lose. That's what I really learned.
Listen. When I play to win, right? So I don't play to lose. However, if you don't get the concept that you're standing there giving her advice is helping her win, that's cheating. Right? I don't get why you try to avoid that part.
I feel like because I didn't say, hey, jump over this character.
Yeah,
right
but
here.
you was like, whoa, you don't see that move? So she stopped like, oh, let me stop what I'm doing and paid attention. It was like, oh, all right. So that literally messed me up because I could have had a jump. But you you let her know to stop and look and pay attention. So I don't see. Anyway, let's get back to our show, man. Guys, thanks for tuning in. As usual, you see me and Mike, we have our little back and forth sometimes, but listen, let's not let our little adventure at the mall deter
We
us,
will
right?
not, but there's only one video that's out about this. Please watch Food for the Culture. Mental theater from last week, and you'll see what
Yeah.
you should see.
Yeah, you'll see the doctor's video, I might add. So
anyway, moving on. You know what? It's a good segue. Speaking of that day at the mall, we also went to the movie theaters,
right,
and whatnot. The week before, you went to the movie theaters and whatnot.
sure.
So we already detailed our the thoughts on the movie on other videos, and you gave also a review of Unhinged on And Now Your Mama Knows. Please check out that channel.
Thank God.
But as far as the theaters themselves, what do you think about the experience of going back to the theaters? I'm gonna get into that.
Well, first of all, guys, thank you for everybody who's seen And Now Your Mama Knows. If you haven't, make sure you check it out. I got my own personal goal where I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so make sure you subscribe. Now, with that said, me personally going to the movies has been such a breeze, but to be fair, it's been like dead, right? So we don't know what it's gonna be like when, let's say, Tenet come out and people, or Black Widow, and people rush to the theater. So for me, it's been, I don't have no fear of the pandemic at all going to the movies. We walk in line like everywhere else. Like I said before, if you go to Walmart, you go anywhere. That's just personally what I said. So you stand in line, you're 6 feet away from somebody in front of you. They pay for their stuff, they walk off, you walk up, you pay for your stuff, your food or whatever you get, and you go, you sit down, nobody's near you, and you watch the movie, you get up and leave. So that's literally how I sum it up. I don't see a problem with it.
Okay, and you forget about the part, you did have to wear a mask to walk in and stuff like
Correct,
that.
correct. But I mean, you got to do that everywhere else. So.
Yeah, the only difference. I think that's a good point. We've been doing that for so long now. It's just part of our regular life and stuff like that. As far as wearing the mask to go in, if you see me on the review, you'll see I'm like spraying down the seat, but that's because I'm a little bit more cautious and whatnot.
Yeah,
and that was also added to the video, which people actually mentioned that to me, about that. So I read about the dead part. Movie theaters have now opened in New Jersey also, which we're very happy about that. I drove past the theater near my house yesterday about like 2 o'clock because I was out, and there were 3 cars in the whole parking lot and whatnot. I drove back past there last night, I want to say about like 10 o'clock, maybe like 9 o'clock, and there were about 10 cars. That's Saturday night at 9 o'clock. But that's a whole theater. That's, for 10 cars. So you got to think, there's a lot of dead theaters in there, right? At 9. So if you are a fearful person, I would say this is your best time to go, actually, because it's still very, very dead.
And here's something we didn't think about, but I think they're smart. So when you and I went to the movies, remember they had a movie. No, what was I was looking up? I think Tenet. I looked up the times for Tenet, and it's a movie every 15 minutes. So maybe they want to give people the option to like, hey, listen, let's not let this movie theater be packed, right? So if you go to pick your seats and it's like, oh, I might be sitting next to somebody, they could be like, hey, listen, it's another show in 15 minutes. So I wonder if that's the case, because every 15 minutes, I was like, that's so strange.
Well, you got to also think, even though it's open in New Jersey, at least, it's still 25% capacity. So they can only fill but so much in there in the first place. So that's why I said if you are fearful, it's a good time for you to go. If you're a person who is that. I'm wondering, though, overall, because that's Tenet. And like I said, there were 3 cars in there in morning, 10 cars at night. I'm like, I'm wondering, will it ever get back to full capacity the way I see it like now? And I wonder, is it because of just the rules or the fear? I wonder, are some people still not going because of fear? What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. So you got to think, there's the group of people who are. Let me switch up. There's people like me who will go. There's people like you that won't go. So
you're pointing the wrong way, by the way.
Well, on screen, I'm pointing the right way.
I got
Yeah.
you. Okay.
It's the weird, this backwards
I
thing,
know.
but yeah. So that's why I had to pause. I'm like, oh yeah, if I go like this, it will point to you, but for you, it won't. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely people who are movie fans, right? But there's still the people who are afraid of what's out there. So that's fair, you know. So it's like, listen, if you don't want to go, don't go, you know. But I think that's why you don't see as many people. I'm sure there's diehard movie fans, but they're also diehard I'm not messing with COVID people, you know.
Yeah, I just want to say I feel like that because of that, the less people, the 25% capacity, I think it's not that bad. If you want to do like me, spray your chair down and feel more comfortable with that way, you don't have to eat anything while you're there. You can wear your mask the entire time. It's the
Right.
equivalent of going to your doctor's office or dentist's office. Still wear the mask the entire time.
Yep.
And you know, and you're still sitting somewhere for a long period of time. So I think it's not you know, that bad. I already told you I got kind of like a home field advantage because I live so close. So like I did yesterday, I could have went with those 3 cars in the theater, you know, and when I
Right.
saw 10, I
Versus
could have said,
versus when it's 9 cars or 10
right,
cars. Yeah. So you can
right.
pick and choose.
I can pick and choose, not to mention I have the limited pass, so I'm not really losing anything, you know, at that particular time. So I will say that I'm happy to have that back as well. But as far as being in there, because I did go with you to PA last week, it wasn't that bad at all, you know, and we didn't even take it to take advantage of. Every theater now is offering non-contactless ordering of your food before you get there. So I was going through the app yesterday. I don't know if you have it or not yet, but they have it right there. We could have ordered a popcorn and soda, whatever, before we
I
got there. It
didn't.
was ready for us. Yeah, it's on the app too. So for people who don't want to deal with people at all, you can walk in, pick up something, walk to your seat, and don't worry about nobody and stuff like
I
that.
mean,
So
I don't care about getting it from people, but that might be cool for time wise.
yes, yes,
Yeah. To be
yes,
honest.
I agree. Yeah, it's on there. It's on the app. If you go to your inbox, it's like one of the messages on there. Stuff
That's
like that.
cool.
So, yeah. Apparently, I've been teaching these guys about the app for the
Yeah.
last week.
Well, apparently I taught you about the app of how you could do the thing where we could buy each other tickets.
True, true,
Ah,
true.
look at that.
Or Sandy taught you, I should say.
And
But
she
true,
did.
true.
And I passed it down to you.
Yeah, we just pass it down, stuff like that. But no. So I would say if you are a movie fan, you're okay to go to the movies. I would say,
Yeah.
don't let it deter you. You know, as I said last week, on a different show, maybe the show, that to me, it was never about the movie. It was never about the none of it was about the movie experience and whatnot. There's a
Right.
place you go to this, and when you go to the movie, it's not the movies itself. It's just a place of serenity for me and being in a fantasy. You know what I mean? Because I'm not on my phone. Because I'm turning my phone off. Because it tells me to turn my phone off before the movie
Right.
starts. Right? So I'm not on my phone. I'm not walking throughout my house checking on things. I'm not getting knocks at my door. Kids are not bothering me.
Yeah.
Right, stuff like that. So it's just like, at least when I'm here, I can watch it and be all into just the movie and get away from my regular life. That's what I think the movie was always about. It was never about, well, you can watch it anywhere. I don't think it's the same thing, in my opinion. So
Man, I'm right there with you. It's something about the movie experience, and one thing you left out was the size of the screen, right? You can't get
yeah,
that at home, you know? And then speakers, you know, it's just something about a movie experience that won't be the same in the house, you know?
yeah. As much as we talked about for like what 6 months about different options, and they'll put all stuff on VOD and
Right.
blah 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 blah. Again, I don't think no matter what you do, you can't get the same experience.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
not for nothing. It was the feeling of going to the movies again was awesome. Like for me and my wife, we have kids, right? It's a getaway for us. When we go without the kids, we just get away and we're out the house already. We might go get something to eat. It's not just only the movies. It's like a trip, a little experience, a getaway. You know, it's
right.
our serenity, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe if you're not a big fan like you and I are, you don't see it as that. You may say, I just want to watch too. I can watch it at home, you know, like that.
Right.
You know, but for me and you, I think it's just a whole different experience.
Yeah.
So, but moving on forward, man, why don't you tell us about why you won't buy your wife flowers?
All right. So I believe you guys talked a lot on your podcast. Was it Food for the Culture? You was talking a lot about the love languages, right? No, poetic charm. And so the 5 love languages. So I believe that there are certain things that make people hearts go, oh my God, right? My wife does like flowers, but flowers isn't the end all be all. I feel like flowers is wasting money. So I feel like I'm gonna spend my money on flowers is gonna die. So you had a two-part question was why you don't like to spend money on flowers, but what do you like to spend money on? So for
Yeah.
me, if I was
But
to ask, go ahead.
this started on Sandy and Anthony show, right? Because somebody mentioned flowers, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I had to ask my wife, so I'll answer. Reason why I don't like to spend money on flowers, flowers aren't super expensive, but I feel like for me, I would rather spend my money on something else. So for instance, my wife and I, we love going to the movies, but one thing we love is going out to eat. And I guarantee if I had a poll and asked my wife, listen, I'm gonna start buying you flowers, but we're not gonna, no, let me not say it that way, but would you rather me buy you flowers or take you out to eat? We love to eat. We love to go places. I'm pretty sure she would rather go to eat. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean I can't buy flowers or shouldn't buy flowers, but I feel like I'd rather spend my money on something like that versus flowers. And not to be funny, but I've never been the romance guy. I'm a surprise guy, right? So I'll pay
Yeah.
attention to things my wife like and surprise her, but I'm not like I'm not the guy that's gonna be ordering flowers all the time.
Okay. So you're not a big romantic. Okay, I get that part and whatnot. So you're saying you rather give her an option than get her the flowers, stuff like
Well,
that, because
no, I don't. No, not really. I don't give her an option. I'm just saying if I was to give her an option, I'm pretty sure she'll rather go out to eat. Like the other day, I knew for a while she wanted to. Actually, I missed our show. No, I missed my gaming show. I do a gaming show every Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. All Purpose Champ and crew. And I actually missed my show because every Wednesday nights for the summer, she was telling me like, hey, they do this all you can eat crab thing, and it's $50 a person. But it's crab, it's all you can eat. And so a couple weeks ago, I said, I'm gonna surprise her, and I was like, listen, we're gonna go out to dinner. I'm gonna take you to because it was supposed to be the last day, and I skipped my show, took her out to eat. That stuff like that is cool for me to go out to eat because we like to sit there, we laugh, we joke, we have a good time when we're out to eat by ourselves, And that stuff I like to do. That stuff I know she values and she likes as well. So
okay, give us details on that. Where was that place at?
it was called Ots, but it was the one in Medford, New Jersey. So we have one that's close to us. That's I guess it would be considered Delran, but Medford is like a half an hour away from us. So I took her there, and they extended it actually. I think it's to the end of the end of September actually. So it's $49.99 a person, and I'm a big fan of Eat at Joe's Crab Shack. That was one of the places I almost go every year for my birthday. They closed down the one on Route 1 in Lawrenceville, but it's still one in Deptford. So we drive all the way out to Deptford, but and it's expensive as well. It's probably like $45, but it's not all you can eat, right? But we love it because it's barbecue crab legs. You could get flavors, right? So imagine crab legs tastes great, but imagine you can have barbecue crab legs. Well, anyway, but they lately they don't give you as much, right? So when we went to this all-you-can-eat place, the first serving was more than you get from Joe's Crab Shack. And every time you say, hey, I want more, they bring you out the same amount. So we end up getting, I was able to, I never in my life got full on crabs. I always feel like, dude, I could eat crabs forever. That night, after the second servings, I was done. But I ordered one last one so I could have something to take with me. So it was awesome. Yeah, the place called Otts, Otts, I believe.
Okay, and it's normally every summer they do this?
Well, no, this is the first time we heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's only on Wednesday nights?
Yeah, Wednesdays.
Okay, all right. I wanted to ask you about it anyway, so good to put it out on the show. Why did you go to one in Delran?
Oh, because the one in Delran said that wasn't doing it. Yeah, they said, that's the one in Medford is the one that's doing the all-you-can-eat crabs.
God, is it a seafood place only? Like,
No, it's not a seafood place at all. It's like it's cool. It's like it looks like a bar inside, then they got tables and stuff, kind of like a pub. And then they have an outside part as well. So the one we went to in Medford was way nicer than the one that's real close to us. They had like a big outside part. They had like where they would have the bonfire, a big opening. It was really cool. It was really nice.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, well, we got your answer on that, and like, so what was a two-part question and whatnot, and what's next?
Well, next is Mike talks about No Limit and Rough Riders docuseries on BET.
Yeah, I want to talk about these on a show, and I'm going to talk about it on other shows. And with you, I thought it would be good because these two particular groups, when they were out, you were kind of an adult almost and whatnot.
Right,
So you were
right.
kind of right in their heyday, and I know you were partying a lot and clubbing a lot. So
Yeah, man.
this music was like a part of your life, I'm sure, at that time. So yeah, so just getting, I mean, I'll start with the No Limit one. I think, well, first of all, I want to say, I think it's good that BET put these docuseries out. I think it's good to get a background on some of the stuff that, you know, you kind of grew up on and some of the artists or CEOs that you know now, like Master P, and where he
Right,
actually came from. I think it's good for us to learn background, and it's good for the youth to kind of learn, you know, about, it's kind of like when we were kids learning about Motown.
right.
I liken it to that, you know, and stuff like that. It's always good to know where you came from and stuff like that. So the No Limit one, I thought it was very, very good. It was I learned a lot about, you know, how he started, how smart Master P really is, you know what I mean, even to this day.
Mm.
And stuff. I learned how he recruited people. I learned even how Snoop you know, was broke after everything with Death Row, and Master P kind of saved them and brought him over to No Limit and got him back, you know, rolling and stuff like that. I also learned that what I learned about it from Master P is that he wore too many hats at the end of the day. He wanted to do, you know, he wanted to do the music, he wanted to do the clothing line, he was doing the No Limit movies, like remember I got the hookup and all that stuff or whatever.
Mhm.
Then he wanted to play professional basketball. Actually did have contracts with the Charlotte Hornets and Toronto Raptors. But what was happening was that, well, if he's out in Toronto playing a preseason game, which he was, the artists are like, "Yo, I want to make this album. You know, are you going to
Right.
be here to the album?" And Master P wasn't very good at delegating. Like he
Okay.
also wanted to be in control of everything, and as far as like what went out, how much went out, and what went out. Well, with that, if you're doing too many things, the artists are now suffering because you're over here doing this and stuff like that. So I felt like that was one thing that I did learn, you know, from him. And he was trying to get a bigger picture. Like if we do everything, we can have money everywhere. But some things take more time. You know, like
Yeah, makes sense.
artists might need your input on this album right here, and can't have you off shooting a movie, you know, at the same time.
Right, right.
So I think you had to learn how to delegate a little bit more, Master P. I also learned his loyalty to his family within the documentary as well. And I learned that he, you know, even after everything's said and done, he's still going. He got the chips, he got the noodles, he got sneakers. He's
Right.
still making so much money. So I just felt like it was good to see the business side. And as far as the deals are concerned, he probably had the best deal in hip hop history, if not music history. He had a deal where he was getting 80% of every album sold from No Limit Records.
Wow.
So from Priority, 80% is huge. So he was dropping these albums, not just him, but everybody under the label. And even if they would sell, you know, 400,000 copies, which is not crazy at all, but if you get 80% of it, you still made a whole bunch of money and stuff like
Right.
that. So I think that was great. Also learned that he understood his power in there because at one point, Priority was saying, you can't drop all these albums in 1 year. And he said, why not? And whatnot. And I'm making you guys so much money. Why are you so upset? And at one point, he had an office in the Priority Records building and stuff like that. So I learned that too. And I just learned that, you know, the whole No Limit came from his grandmother saying, there's no limit to what you can become when he was a young
Oh,
kid.
wow.
And he kept that name, you know, throughout. His grandmother who wound up passes away and stuff like that. So I think that was cool. But then I also learned with his brother, C Murder, who was also still in jail, that, you know, sometimes it's like I could try my best to get you to get up out the hood and to be, you know, to be bigger, but sometimes you just can't get away. So C
Right.
Murder had a mansion at a golf resort that Master P bought for him, that he made from all his record sales, which was beautiful, nice and huge, but had an apartment in the project at the same time. And
Wow.
every day he would go back to the projects and hang out all day, smoke, chill, and everything like that, instead of being in his mansion, a nice neighborhood. And I mean, he had a whole apartment. Like, he actually furnished it. So he had an apartment there for the daytime, but they would go home to the golf resort at night. So I just felt like, and, you know, what wound up happening to him was going to a club in the hood for people who don't know, he wound up getting in a scuffle or whatever, and wound up getting charged with a attempted murder, and he's still doing life in prison right now for it, stuff like that. And part of that is because the crowd he still ran with at that time in the areas that he still was frequenting. So I learned, so when you do have success, unfortunately, you might feel like it's selling out, quote unquote, but you have to change your environment and people that you're around. So
right. And ironically, his nickname was C Murder. Now, here's the thing that's hard is that, so you make music like, let's just say the culture, right? If you're making, like, let's just say he was making music that was more, sad to say, but it was, his nickname was C Murder. Like, I grew up and, you listening to the music, you had to be like you had to be the hardest person. Just you throw out these nicknames, right? And so you figure he was already into, like, it's feel like that selling out thing is real. Cause like, how are you going to make music for the culture, but you don't really, now you're in a mansion over here. So he wanted to be real, right? And it's hard to separate the two. If you can't be in the lifestyle, but then not get caught up in the lifestyle, if that makes any sense. So that's hard. I guess that got to be hard for a lot of artists, especially back in our day, because nowadays I feel like artists don't have to really be real, but in our day it was a big thing about being real. Like, you would be called fake, phony, if you wasn't really trying to live the lifestyle. So,
right. Well, ironically, your point is valid because every newspaper article during his trial, they never used his name. They always used C Murder, right? Because they wanted to kind of emphasize that he probably is a murderer, right? Mm. Also, some of his lyrics were brought in the courtroom to use against him.
Right.
During the trial. So a lot of the prosecutors were like, look, he said he would do this. Why do we think he didn't do it? Stuff like that, right, and whatnot. Even though it might just be lyrics or whatever. Right. We heard a bunch of lyrics from a bunch of guys and whatnot. So, it don't mean they would do it. So you're kind of right that kind of played against him. But I think that you're right. In our day, it was like, yo, how you talking about this, but you're not living it? We did have a big emphasis on the authenticity back then. However, it's a shame because at a certain point you should be able to say, okay, I'm going to leave here and better myself and better my situation and stuff like that.
I think it's the bigger picture is the content that you create, right? So for instance, I remember what's his name, I kind of didn't like him as much. He was in the one basketball movie with Queen Latifah. Common. Yeah, Common. So Common, for me, he was always positive, right? And like, growing up, I just didn't feel his music. He was like talking about good stuff, positivity. I wanted that ghetto, stuff. But I feel like that's a shame because you're not going to be that popular if you don't be kind of like, hood, And so it's a cycle, First of all, you take guys who was living a crazy lifestyle, right? Let's say the ghetto lifestyle, and then they become a good artist. They're good at rapping, right? So now they become super popular, and most of their fans are the ghetto people, and all the music you making is ghetto. So you're not speaking more positive and uplifting. You're more just glorifying what you was into, right? So you get all this money. You could literally get away from that, but you don't because you're still tied into it because that's what you're rapping about, and people are gonna call you fake. It's like a system that you can't even get out of.
I mean, I guess you can, at the end of the day, but you might not be able to.
But
well, I think that's what Master P was trying to tell C and all the rest of them is like, as we're making this money, we're not going to be authentic in our rap, so let's do other things. So that's why Master P, who's still worth almost $400 million, is still good because even though he stopped rapping, he got to other ventures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
you gotta think about it this way. You can't follow the rap game forever, especially if your raps is about a certain thing, because eventually if you say, okay, I'm gonna do this because I'm good at it, but I'm gonna do it to make money, and eventually I'm gonna make so much more money, then I'm not gonna live the lifestyle that I'm rapping about, and the fans are probably gonna turn on me anyway. But then guess what? At that point, I'm gonna be able to ride off into the sunset. I had a good career. You loved my music, but now I kind of evolved a little above my music. In a weird way.
I think it's about changing with the times. Yeah, you rapper. I think what you said is true, but keep rapping about your lifestyle. Jay-Z was the king of that. His first album is like a drug dealer's manual, right? Reasonable Doubt. But by the time you get to like later on, he's talking about, you know, being on yachts and popping champagne and things like that, because his life changed. So his music evolved with his life and stuff like that and whatnot. You won't hear him say, I'm out on the block selling $2 right now, because he ain't doing that. Stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, don't try to live the life to match the music. Just rap about what you're actually currently living and stuff like that. And maybe you might lose some fans, maybe you might not, but hopefully by then you're smart enough, like Jay-Z or Master P, to invest in other things to keep making money. You know what I'm saying? Overall. But for you, before I get to Rough Riders, or before I ask you the question, so for No Limit, for me, back then, I didn't really like them. I thought they couldn't rap, most of them and stuff like that, except for Mystical. And I was wondering, like, you know, how they had so much money. And that's what the documentary showed me. Like, they made a lot, because even without selling a lot, they had their deal was so crazy, they made so much money.
Right.
I didn't, but I also understood that Master P, he had like the South, and the South was getting big at the time, and they were supporting him so much that his album was still going platinum or 2 times platinum. Right. I also learned that he really did save Snoop. And I thought that was a wonderful thing he did, because just to fill you in, Snoop was just asked to be on a feature for a Mystical song, and he was so broke, even after selling so much with Death Row, after Suge Knight went to jail, Snoop said, "I'll do it for $3,500." Because that's how broke, he just needed money to pay the rent, stuff like that. And that's after selling, you know, 5 times platinum albums, stuff like that.
That's crazy.
So I know. So Master P threw an extra 0 on there, and they gave him $35,000, because this is what you deserve, the type of artist that you are. And then before you know it, they start talking, and he signed him to a 3-album deal. He also had to go to the actual jail to get Suge to get sign off on getting Snoop out of the deal and stuff like that. So there was a lot going on with that. But if not for that, who knows where Snoop would have wound up being at that time? He was a broke guy doing features and stuff like that. So that's what I learned. But what do you think of No Limit, let's say back then when you were young?
Trash. Yeah, I never liked them. I wasn't into their style. But here's what's crazy. What's cool for me is I moved to Florida, Jacksonville, Florida in 1999. So they was huge, right? So I got to see, oh, wow, like they're a big deal. Not for me, because I was from up north and I more or less was into, you know, my rap style was more like Biggie and stuff like Nas and stuff like that. So I guess their accents, the way they worded things, the way they took long pauses, I felt like for me, skill level is more when you're rapping and sound like it's flowing. Whenever you take so many pauses and sound like you could be reading, like that bothers me. I'm not into that. I'm into more faster rap. So yeah, I didn't like them. I wasn't a big fan. They had a couple hits that the beats was pretty cool, like About My Head too. No Limit Soldier. But for the most part, I wasn't that into them. And Mystical was the best one of them too. So.
I definitely agree with that 100%. But even him, just to go back to what I was saying, like, I didn't even realize it because, and I don't know, because I was young, that he actually left No Limit. So when you hear the other albums like Shake It Fast and Danger, that wasn't on No Limit. But he left No Limit, same reason. He couldn't get a hold. They couldn't get a hold of Master P. He was off playing basketball games, you know, the Charlotte Hornets and stuff like that. Right. So, like I said, I did learn that if you're going to be a mogul, you got to be able to delegate if you want to keep people, you know, aligned and stuff like that. So, and next up, Rough Ryders Doc. The song goes too far. Now I know you like them back in the day.
Yes, and also when I moved to Jacksonville, Florida in 1999, that's when the first Rough Ryders Anthem album came out, and it went crazy. That's when Jay-Z actually had the one song on there, Jigga. That was a big, huge deal in my life. Rough Ryders was awesome. I loved Eve. One of the coolest things I seen was a T-Rex. It's one of my favorite vehicles, and Eve was riding on a T-Rex in the video. Like, yeah, it was yeah, I was a huge Rough Ryders fan.
Rough Ryders Doc was good as a young person when they came out. I thought they were just they hit so hard at the time. But I was such a Jay-Z fan, and I was always like putting Jay-Z against DMX, so I wasn't as big of a fan of Rough Ryders because I was more of a rock fan.
Oh, okay, yeah, see, yeah, I have had that in my life. Like, for instance, I'm how old now, and I never seen any of the Tomb Raider movies because when Tomb Raider came out, Resident Evil came out, and I was a Resident Evil fan, not a Tomb Raider fan. So I just didn't follow Tomb Raider in the video games, and I only stuck to Resident Evil. And now I got older and like, wow, they had some, you know, I just didn't follow it. But I see what you're saying. You have your like me. I never had a pair of Converse ever. I was a Nike guy, you know.
Right.
So I get what happened to you.
Yeah, it's like people with Marvel and DC. Some don't read Marvel at all, even though DC, you know, whatever stuff like that. Right. So I get it. But yeah, but you know, I still heard the music and it was good, but I always put them against each other. Now that I see this documentary, I probably shouldn't have.
Because Rough Riders was an awesome time in music, man. And what made them so good, again, like I said, Jay-Z being on there, they collaborated with people don't realize a lot of people on like Rough Rider album wasn't even in Rough Riders. Like they collaborated with a lot of people, and they was just good, like, man.
They were good, and they made these anthems, and they had a certain sound that I think was dope and whatnot. But I'll get to that later on. What I did learn was a lot about so what got me was what I'm getting to. What got me was when the documentaries start, they always start, you know, with the CEO and they tell their backstory a little bit, right, and then how they started the label. So the documentary starts with these two guys, D and Y. They're brothers, who are from Yonkers, I believe, or somewhere in New York. And it starts with them and how they grew up and how their dad was a Muslim and all that stuff like that. And I'm like, who are these guys? That was a Rough Riders documentary, right? So it's like the first episode. So then it goes to it and it talks about their journey growing up. And then one of them went to jail and the other one was out. And then they wanted to do music and stuff like that. And then they was like, you heard about this guy DMX who raps and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. It's like 1987, which also got me because, you know, I didn't realize DMX was so old when he came out in 99. But in like 87, he was already like rapping and had mixtapes out. Right. And this is like, he's like 20 years old already by then. And whatnot. So that got me too. So then it turns out they are the guys who started Rough Riders and whatnot. I always thought DMX started Rough Riders, and he was the CEO, the head, and stuff like that. I went and asked my friends who are around my age, Ray, Chris, who I've talked to you about, and they were like, yo, I thought the same thing. My mind's blown and whatnot. Yeah. So I was putting DMX against Jay-Z as two CEOs of their own label. But DMX was never a CEO and whatnot. Right. So that's why.
He was just a front man.
He was an artist, yeah. He was exactly.
They put his face like out there, you know, but he wasn't behind the scenes.
Right.
That's crazy.
I know, it's crazy. So these two guys, you know what, we didn't know about them because unlike, let's say, Puffy or Suge Knight, they never showed their face. They were just two guys in the background back then. With the other guys like Puff, we knew Puff owned Bad Boy, right? He was always
or Damon Dash.
Or Damon, but Dame was a partner with Jay-Z and whatnot. Right. So, but yeah, same thing and whatnot. But these two guys didn't. They were more like, you know, in the background. So that's why I never knew about them. So anyway, they found DMX. DMX was trying to make hits for a while and stuff like that, and he just couldn't get one to hit. But that's also what details his drug problem started well before he had money. Like he always had drug problems to the point where at one point before he even became big, they found him in a crack house. Like they couldn't even get a hold of him. They found him in a crack house up against the wall and stuff like that. So they wound up moving him from Yonkers to Baltimore to get away from people that he knew and stuff like that. And that's when he just started to rap more and stuff like that. Because they always knew like he was a good rapper, he's a good writer, and he's got a great sound. If he could just stay clean and stuff like that. So all this stuff kind of showed me the difference between DMX and Jay-Z. You know, a lot of it, stuff like that. You also learn before he was rapping a lot, he was a stick-up guy, DMX, and whatnot. He just robbed people. And the funny part is that he would rob people with his dog. Not even a gun a lot of times. Whatever like that, which is crazy. So I was actually like, all right, so somebody rob you with a dog? And he was like, hell yeah, somebody can rob you with a dog. What do you think about that?
I had to guess now in hindsight, that was his whole thing, like with dogs on chains and all the videos. So I guess it made sense, you know, and I think that you probably could rob me with a dog. If you had a pit bull or something, it was like, I'm gonna sick him on you holding the chain. I was like, all right, man, just listen, take this. That's crazy story, but I mean, I can so see that now. That was always his thing. His whole thing was he was a dog, and he always, and like every video, he's holding a chain with these big dogs, and you know.
Yeah, it's crazy because I never heard nobody rob nobody with a dog, but he was doing it all the time apparently, people stuff like that. So, which is crazy, but that's something that he kept on doing, even when he was still rapping, putting out mixtapes to a point where when they took him to Baltimore, these guys walked up on him in the alleyway, about 4 or 5 guys. He had on one of the guys' coats, like leather jacket. So what happened was somebody had robbed that guy like a day before, but the guy that robbed that guy, DMX, then robbed him.
Oh,
Something
wow.
like that. So he had the jacket on. And the guy he robbed me. He was like, nah, it wasn't me. I ain't never seen him before. Blah, blah, because he had on a ski mask when the guy did rob him and stuff like that. And he wasn't lying. It wasn't him, but he robbed the guy that robbed him. So he had the coat. So he wanted to beat him up so bad and whatnot, had him in the hospital, for months and months and months. It's also a crazy story and whatnot.
Hold on.
But
DMX got beat up, or DMX beat the guy up?
no, the 4 or 5 guys jumped him, put him in the
Oh,
hospital very bad because he had on the coat. Because they
no,
thought
I
he
get that. I
robbed
get
him.
that. I just want
Yeah.
to make the distinction of who got beat
Yeah.
up. All right.
Yeah. So he was really bad off then. But DNY, we're still trying to put his mixtapes out to get him known. Wound up getting a Irv Gotti, who you know from what's it
Ja
called?
Rule.
Ja
Right.
Rule. Well,
Yeah.
he was also back before the whole Ja Rule situation. He was in the music as well, and he wound up getting a job with Def Jam, and he already knew DMX. So he said, "Listen, y'all give me this job as A&R. We got to sign DMX." They didn't want to sign him. Lear Cohen, who was with Def Jam, the white guy, he wound up going to a studio and hearing DMX rap, and eventually they signed him and stuff like that. But I want to tell the whole, just go into it deeply. But anyway, for Rough Riders, they were smart marketing. They knew what they had, like you said. That double R was everywhere and whatnot.
Everywhere.
And people loved it. And like you said, DMX served as a front man, which was perfect. It went almost like a mascot and whatnot. Which I thought was very, 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 very good. And then they wound up signing Eve. I talked about Eve on Food for the Culture last week. How I like Eve because she was able to put out an album, be #1, go double platinum without making sex singles and stuff like that and whatnot, which told me that it can be done, even to this day and stuff. And then they signed the Locks back, from Bad Boy. They were on Bad Boy, the whole time and stuff like that. So, but what happened was eventually DMX was like, bro, I am the front man. I am the reason why people like Rough Riders. Why am I only an artist? Why am I not getting some of the percentage of the label? The label heads, they said, well, look, bro, like, this is a deal you signed. We're not giving you percentage of the company, it's a deal you signed. So that's when he went out and started his whole bloodline thing, which was confusing to the artists, the people like me and you, because he was like repping Bloodline and Double R at the same time, which is crazy.
I feel like I don't know what the hell Bloodline is. You're like Bloodline. I'm like, what?
It was his own label, Bloodline. If you really look back, you remember it. But anyway, DMX was amazing. He had 2 albums dropped in the same year that both went #1 and stuff, which was amazing. But even with that, right, he dropped that first album, which was a crazy seller, and then the heads of Def Jam told the heads of Rough Riders, listen, if you get him to do another album by the end of this year, I'll give you guys $1 million. You can get a whole nother album done. They called DMX, like, we're getting the studio. He don't get none of that money. So I feel like he was kind of used a lot by the heads of Rough Riders to put out music and make them huge, but he only saw small benefits. He didn't start seeing good benefits until he started getting the movies. Romeo Must Die, Cradle to the Grave, and all that stuff. He got signed to a 3-movie picture deal and stuff like that. But what happened then was now he got money and he got his own people because they're from the movies. So now the people in Rough Riders, they can't control X no more, which happened at that time. So even with his drugs, he was always on drugs, off and on, throughout this whole entire time. They couldn't keep control of him. And then Eve got fed up with the music situation after 2 #1 albums and started to kind of expand her career. And then what happened was the Locks was like, let's start D Block. Remember D Block?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So they were like, yo, Puffy had bad. They were like, yo, Puffy had Bad Boy. We weren't making the money we were supposed to under him. Now we're under Rough Riders. Let's start our own thing. So now they're putting their time in the D Block. So what was happening a lot back then, and you'll know this, was that every artist was tired of being under a label. They want to start their own thing and whatnot. But now you got 30,000 labels at that time and whatnot. So it was just kind of like too much. So anyway, eventually, the movie thing went away because the studios thought X was a liability because of the drugs, not showing up to movie meet. Like movies are different. You got to be there for the rehearsals, the script readings.
Right.
You got to be there for the shoots. Every day you're not there, you lose money. He missed so many shooting days from being on drug binges. He missed so many rehearsals, things like that. The studios, that's why you start seeing the movies. The studios, we can't do this anymore, stuff like that.
I did like Cradle to the Grave, man.
Me too. He could have been so much bigger. But with music, they'll work on an album at 2 in the morning in the studio.
Right.
Where like movie shoots are on a schedule and stuff like that. So it's a lot different.
Yeah.
So anyway, finally got back to the music, and when he tried to come back out, what happened was he had the same sound, same Swiss beat stuff. But by then, 2006, music started to change a little bit. And his music just couldn't go what was coming out at that time and whatnot. He didn't change with the time or have the ability to. I don't know, which one it was. But at their height, they were definitely one of the biggest labels of all time.
I think what's hard too for DMX is because his popularity and him being like, he was one of the hardest like artists, like what he said and what he portrayed himself to be. And then when it was public knowledge that he was on drugs, it's like, I can't even believe you anymore. Again, that's the whole authenticity of being a rapper. If you super hard, you shooting people, you robbing people, you murdering people, you'll slap somebody's mom up, but now you're a crackhead. It's like, so
right.
Yeah,
that makes sense because once it became public, I think they hit it good for many, many years. But once it became public, I think it kind of hurt him and whatnot. And I also think that as great as he was, that I wish he would have had a smarter team behind him early to know that, bro, you should be more than just an artist on the label and stuff like that. To kind of help him out in that particular nation. But it helped me learn a lot. I have respect for DNY. I respect the label that they had. It honestly made me lose a little bit of respect for DMX because of what I thought he was at the time. I thought he was the label head, like I said. I thought he was Jay-Z basically and whatnot. Right. So, but I still respect him as an artist overall.
But you do have to back up a little bit. Don't make it like Jay-Z started, because I remember when I was into music, Damon Dash was like the guy, and Jay-Z was his #1 artist. And then eventually
it was never that. They were always partners. There was a 3-way partnership, Dame, Biggs, and Dame, Biggs, and Jay-Z. Jay-Z was the label CEO. They were a 3-way partnership. Jay-Z was making so much money from drugs that Dame and Biggs had to talk him into being a rapper. And the way they did it was saying, we'll be a 3-headed CEO or whatever like that.
Right.
DMX was a stick-up kid with barely no money.
No, I get that. I'm not comparing them. I'm just thinking from, again, like you said, you had no clue DNY or whatever they call existed. So from me listening to the radio and being into when Jay-Z came out, I've always heard of Damon. I thought Damon Dash was like his manager. Like Damon Dash was the guy, above Jay-Z, and then eventually they would start beefing, and then they went their separate ways, and Jay-Z ended up doing his own thing and came up. So I never looked at Jay-Z. I never ever looked at Jay-Z and Damon Dash like they was equal. I always looked like Damon Dash was was above him.
Never was, no.
Well, that's bad marketing. Bad marketing.
Was it?
Listen, here's the thing. The way they market DMX was good marketing, right? Because they was pretty much shareholders in the background. They didn't need to be seen. Like Suge Knight, right? You seen Suge Knight, he didn't rap, he didn't do nothing, but you knew of him. So you actually got if you want to be seen, you could be seen, right? If you don't want to be seen, perfect example is DMX. With Jay-Z, I feel like that's bad marketing. The way they did it, again, if you ask a bunch of my friends, again, I'm 9 years older than you or something like that. So when I grew up with the Jay-Z thing, I clearly thought Jay-Z was like, I thought Damon Dash was like Puffy pretty much. Even though Puffy actually raps sometimes, I thought Damon Dash was like a Puffy, and he was like Jay-Z was like his Big. Damon Dash Big. He was just a guy under him.
Really?
And he literally was helping Jay-Z. Yeah, he literally was the guy that helped get Jay-Z a start, help Jay-Z, become something. I just felt like Jay-Z was smarter than everybody else, like Biggie and Biggie ended up dying. But I felt like Jay-Z was just smart enough to go his own separate and then literally become his own CEO and blah, blah, blah.
No, when you go back and do your research, of course, but if you look at his first album, it says CEO Rockefeller, Jay-Z,
Right.
Damon Dash, Kareem Biggs, or whatever like that. They've
Right.
always been
You know what too? I think ages too. So like when Jay-Z and them was out for me, right? I feel like the way it was portrayed to me, I guess is different. So maybe when Jay-Z was like, I don't know how old you was when Jay-Z first came out, but I feel like maybe you got more of like the backstory, and maybe you got more as you got older, like more like the behind the scenes. And for me, like I didn't start off comparing DMX and Jay-Z. Like who's the better CEO? I just looked at who was the better rapper. So it's so funny what you see and the way you thought of things was different than me. Like I could care less who was a CEO. Like, well, I just like the music. I was just into like who's the better artist, who could rap better, you know?
Well, I was looking at it like, the way they were rapping, especially when they were like in a different era. I was looking at it like kind of like, Jay-Z was rapping about being a boss and whatnot. And I felt like that DMX, you can't rap about being because you're not a boss and whatnot. So I felt like some of the stuff that DMX was saying, that's why I lost some respect now. Like you were never like he didn't have any input on Swiss Beats, Eve, the Locks.
Right.
If you even look at that, if you even go back to Kanye, he says, yeah, I had to meet with Jay-Z to get signed to Rockefeller. Like Jay-Z was, one of the guys and stuff like that.
Right.
Where DMX was just like, are you bringing
Yeah,
this
you know
guy?
what's cool? I think that so shows our parallel because it makes such a big deal for you that Jay-Z is CEO and DMX wasn't. For me, I'm like, I don't care. I ain't getting no money from none of them. I want to know who makes the better music, who could rap better. If you put them in a room, who's going to rap better? I don't care if you own Rockefeller and that person had to come to you, get signed off. That literally holds no weight into the music itself.
No, it does. If you're saying I'm a boss, are you? It's about what you're saying. It's like you said about CM Murder. What are you saying in the tracks?
Yeah, but what I'm saying, like these rappers, they all lie anyway, for the most part. Like rapping is entertainment, it's like a movie. You don't see Spider-Man, Tom Holland jumping in Spider-Man, be like, are you really Spider-Man? No, man, I'm an actor.
But what did you say? But what did you say a few minutes ago about No Limit? It's about back in the day. It was about being authentic to what you actually were.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they get stuck into that. And that's why I feel like today's artists, to a point, are a little bit better off than our artists because they don't have to, like, you had to be super real. Today, we kind of know most of the artists are BS and they're not that real. And you don't even get that mad if you hear somebody, like, remember when we found out Ja Rule lived in Connecticut? It was like, what? You live in Connecticut? Like, that's what I'm just finding out somebody don't live in the hood was like a big deal.
I think because they were always kind of put against each other. To me, it was bigger to me than just who's better lyrically and whatnot. Right. I was looking at the overall picture. All right, well, right. It kind of like Nas and Jay-Z or whatever, right. Whoever in Jay-Z. A lot of people you can say and whatnot. At the end of the day, I'm like, yo, Jay-Z won because he's $1 billion CEO, and what are you guys? At one point, Nas
I feel like that's a bad argument. So you're a better artist because you make more money. You're a better artist because you're a CEO. No, that doesn't translate into your skill.
If I'm beefing with you, like let's say Nas, for example, Nas eventually signed to Def Jam while Jay-Z was the president of Def Jam. So Nas had to. Oh, DMX, perfect example. And DMX's last album, by then Jay-Z was president of Def Jam at that time. He had to get his tracks approved by Jay-Z and whatnot, and he hated that stuff like that. So again, when we're beefing, at the end of the day, you got to come. Now I'm your boss. I won this. At the end of the day, I won.
Oh yeah, I hear you on that, but I feel like that's you. I mean, listen, you could go. That's taking it like to the extreme. Well, I'm more on like if I like two movies, what's the better movie? Well, this is how I figure out. If I had a 2-hour airplane ride, what movie I'm gonna play? Right there, you go. If I'm listening to music, who got the better lyrics? Like if who has a better, like who has a better sound? That's how I look.
You're looking at more just on a level of just the actual like movies. Movies don't beef with each other, right? So you're looking at just like two movies here or what like that. I guess when it came to music, especially back then, because it started with Suge and Bad Boy and stuff, it was more about the overall picture and stuff like that. Right. Who's making more money? Who's selling more albums? Who's doing all this stuff or whatever like that and whatnot. So I guess
And you know what's funny? I think for your generation, maybe you guys cared more about that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think once we came up, you started
Right.
seeing more of it,
Like the
a little
behind the
bit.
scenes, like actually what's really going on. For me, I just got the face value. Just what you seen is what you thought, and you just went with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like
Our magazines, not well, your magazines too, but by the time they came out for us, like the Source, remember all that stuff, it
right,
would
right,
list like this album sold this many copies.
right, right,
So we're arguing that, well, he sold 4 million, he
right.
sold 5 million, stuff
Yeah,
like
my
that.
thing was just simply like, oh, who sounds better? Like, who is better lyrically? That was the main thing. Like, who's more clever? Who tell better stories? It was never really into like who's a CEO, because I feel like at that time, like, who really was a CEO? I don't know. For me, like, I was really into lyrics. Lyrics at the end of the day came down to it. Now, I'm gonna bring something up. You guys asked who would be better out of, it was four people on not mental there, on Poetic Charm or Food for the Culture. And
Yeah.
me personally and Banks, we both said DMX. I said I didn't. I watched
No, no,
it.
no, no, you didn't. You said 50 Cent.
50 Cent. Sorry. Yeah, who was it? It was
It
DMX.
was
Well,
it
you
was
tell me.
DMX.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
I
50
know it's
Cent.
Jay-Z and 50 Cent was in it.
It was Jay-Z, 50 Cent. Wait, you watched it. Hold on. And I commented back to you too on that actually. So on the show, but it was Jay-Z, 50 Cent, a few others. But you picked
50
50
Cent.
Cent. I know.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, but why'd you pick 50 Cent though? You see what I'm saying?
I picked 50 Cent because, like Banks said, I felt like because I think it was what you had to get rid of, like only one could stay or something like that. And
One catalog, a musical catalog. Yeah.
right, one musical catalog. And for me, I can't imagine, like 50 Cent was my very first concert I ever went to, right? And the crazy thing is the anchor on the concert was Eminem. So I went to a G Unit / Eminem concert. Now you would think Eminem obviously is a bigger artist and supposed to be lyrically better than 50 Cent, right? We don't have to even debate that. But when it started off with G Unit and the music they made, and everybody's in the audience dancing and jamming, and then when Eminem came on, it was like the energy went down, because when Eminem rap, you're only like, and when DMX come on, you're like, oh, like I'm a club guy. I dance. I would go to a club and dance. You can't listen. Jay-Z don't have that many songs where Jay-Z remind me like of Eminem. Like Jay-Z got better beats than Eminem. Eminem pretty much is all lyrics, right? His lyrics, you're like, oh, Jay-Z is smooth. Like he will have some good beats too, but for the most part, his stuff is hard. His raps, he rap really good. But But 50 Cent for me is an entertainer. You guys were saying like he talked about Ja Rule, but then he did the same thing with the singing. But listen, at the end of the day, yeah, that's not cool, because if we saying being real, you did the same thing. But on hindsight, he was brilliant. For the people in the clubs, man, like Josh said it, he never went to a club ever. So he wouldn't understand what me and Banks was saying. You see, Banks always going somewhere. 50 Cent ruled the music world in the clubs. Like his songs was always coming out. Like you can dance to it. Like I'm telling you, when I went to that concert, the whole thing, I was standing up the whole time. Eminem came out, I sat down. And I was like, man,
Right.
Eminem was good.
So I kind of for Banks,
Right.
I understood this more because like Banks's age. Banks is 29, 30 years old, right? So
Okay.
I kind of get it. That 50 Cent Eminem concert was probably like, 50 Cent album, G Unit dropped in 2003. So it could have had probably been 2004 when it came out, right?
I'll tell you, I was with my my daughter's mom. So that was no. Yeah, I was with her. That was the first concert I ever went to. Actually won those tickets from going to a club at Kathmandu. I always got on stage and I won them, right? So that was like 2004. Yeah, probably like 2004.
Right. And then like that whole club scene for you, I don't know exactly when it was for you and stuff like that. But I dropped 10 songs that Jay-Z had party wise. But you gotta remember, Jay-Z came out in 1996 or whatever, right? So he had club bangers. But 1996, how old were you? Like I don't know how much you were
Right.
going to the club
Yeah,
as much
I
back
wasn't
then.
going to the clubs yet then.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So I felt like that, if you're not really if you don't know Jay-Z's whole catalog and you're looking like post, because it's 2020 right now, right? But if you're looking like post 2000, I think that's when Jay-Z got out of the club bangers. But I felt like in 96, 97, 98, 99, he had club bangers, stuff like that. So I think that it's more like you guys weren't, especially Banks, but weren't clubbing when Jay-Z had club songs.
Right.
That's what I can look at it like.
Yeah, I mean, as far as being a Jay-Z fan, I can't. Yeah, I would. There's no way in hell you're gonna put his club songs up against 50's. Like 50 club songs just ruled the clubs.
Well, I wasn't putting it against it. I was saying that his songs were playing and people were dancing to them. Like y'all,
yeah,
like. Well, Banks made it seem like he had like nothing you could dance to. I'm like, no, he had a lot.
I mean, I'm sure he did, but not as much as 50. That's what I'm saying. Maybe he did, but you can't say as much as 50. 50 was smart because he realized at that point. So here's the thing: at that era where I was clubbing, like clubbing was such a huge, big thing, and then everybody was getting into it. The music they was making, these club bangers, right? I feel like when Jay-Z was making a club bangers, I don't think the club scene was as popular as it was on that era where 50 Cent jumped into it. He was really smart, and like I remember LL made a club song. He wasn't even clubbing anymore.
Like if you're maybe let's say a little bit older than you might be like, nah, I was dancing a lot to Jay-Z songs in the club all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I think the age plays a part in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, it always does in our conversations, but maybe. But for me, I mean, again, you're asking a question, right? So whoever's answered the question got to answer it based off of their knowledge and their feelings, right? So for me, I feel like if we had to only keep one catalog, I love to dance. And like, I never heard that many Jay-Z songs where I feel like, oh man, like, but 50 Cent, like his music just, like you went to the club and you just, when, I could go on and on with his music, his clubbing.
I think, like I said, I wanted to, that's why I put about 12 club songs, which were club hits. And when I responded to you and the thing that Jay-Z had. Yeah, but mind you, yeah, it's on there. But mind you, this is when I was 10 or 12 years old, but I'm a historian, so I go back and do research and stuff like that.
Right.
But I felt like that your response and Bank response, you're never going to have the same experience because you never danced in the club to the Jay-Z song when it was the number one song, club song, or whatever like that. So it's not going to it's never going to hit for you. It's not possible.
Yeah, and plus it's my age too, so you got to think about it. I'll go back and listen to those songs and I'll listen to the beats and I would literally have to be like, oh, this would have been the thing, because at the end of the day, I still love dancing that today, right? So if I listen and hear the beat and be like, oh, but I feel like 50 caught on to the wave, like he knew, like, again, Jay-Z wasn't singing in the middle of his thing, that wasn't cool.
He had somebody on the hook back then.
Yeah, 50 knew, like, what he did and what he said, like it just had you like, I got the magic stick. Like, come on, man, you can't look. Jay-Z is not gonna be he didn't come out to be the club guy. 50 was the club guy. You ain't never hear Jay-Z, I'm pretty sure it said or went on record to say he made music for clubbing. I'm pretty sure. I don't care if it's 96 when I wasn't clubbing.
I don't think he did, but I think most artists, like including Jay-Z, because if you just make only street songs, like you're not going to sell as much for the most part, except for maybe DMX or whatever.
Yeah,
but you're not going to sell as much for the most part. So my only point was that, especially for Banks more than you, was that you didn't hear the club songs because you weren't clubbing at the time and whatnot. But Banks made it seem like, yeah, Jay-Z don't have no club songs or whatnot.
Yeah, but let's be fair though. It's a difference versus somebody have club songs, right? Oh yeah, you got club songs. I think Eminem made 1 or 2 club songs, so he got club songs, right? It's a difference when you have club songs versus you make club songs. It's a difference.
Well, no, hold on. I love Fifth. Fifth is one of my favorite artists. He didn't just make club songs. Like if he
didn't. But when in that era, when I was clubbing, he knew like it caught on. So he was making so many songs. Even G Unit, they made sure that what they content was still good, got over on the street people. But they was in tune with the beats and the music that people could dance to, which was brilliant. So they put out a song that could still be street, but it had that sound that you was like, oh man, like you could dance to.
That's what I'll say. Like the lyrically, they weren't talking about dancing, but you
Right.
know,
Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yes.
a lot of the beats were definitely club beats.
Yeah.
I'll say it like that.
Yeah, they were still talking about robbing and all this crazy stuff. Nobody was talking about. I mean, yeah, they definitely had the I'm popping bottles in the club. Like 50 had a lot of that. So that was specifically club music. But like with G Unit, they just had club beats, man. You was just you could. When I went to that concert, all night long we was on our feet just jam. I'm sweating at a concert and my one little seat. Ain't like I'm dancing. I'm just in my seat, standing up.
To your point, I guess you're making a point, like, you know, in that situation, it's about what your experience was when you choose these artists and whatnot. Yeah. And that's why I see Banks and you choosing 50 over Jay-Z.
Yeah, that's why I said on the thing for me and Banks. Again, I don't know your history with clubbing, but Josh made it clear he never went to a club ever, right? So then I wouldn't even, so you wouldn't even give something points, right? Like, why would I even care if the music sound like a club song and I never club, right? So obviously he wouldn't be choosing 50 Cent, right? So Jay-Z or whoever else was on the list might hold more weight. But for me and Banks, I'm watching that video where Banks was dancing and the thing, he was getting ready to go out. Like you could tell, like, oh man, like he's getting out. I don't know if he dances, but he loves that vibe where I literally dance, So for me, him playing 50 Cent's music was great for me because I hate it when I went to the club and they playing stuff that I can't dance to. But
I just remember like there was like these dance teams like back in the day and stuff like that. And I remember being like 13 or 12 or something like that. And I remember my cousin had a dance team and they would rehearse every day to go on like these dance competitions, about 10 or 15 girls, stuff like that. And this was like 1997, but their dance songs they rehearsed to were like Jay-Z songs, stuff like that at the time. So I'm just like, at the time he had dance hits, stuff like that. You might not remember them, but he definitely had them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was definitely older at that time. So I'm sure when I look at your list you wrote me, I'll go check it out. I'm sure I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Definitely. But yeah, in my era, when I was actually at the club dancing, 50 Cent was that. You requesting 50 Cent one of his songs, so you could get your dance on.
I got you. Well, that was my whole thing about Rough Riders. I mean, I know you just like the music, but it did definitely give me a little different thing. But what we got next, bro?
All right, this is crazy, but it's something I came up with a while ago, and it's on the list. We said we'll put it off, and we put it off. And I guess you want to read it, or you want me to read it because it's kind of left field?
Go ahead. I did the future before that.
No, I actually read. Mike talks about No Limit and Rough Riders. So why don't you read? Why don't you read?
All right, cool.
So I don't have to say it.
From Anthony, what's worse for a guy, to have sex with a girl who was really into your performance?
No. You're messing it up, man.
I'm sorry. What's worse for a guy, to have sex with the girl you were really into, but your performance was really bad, or you tried to have sex with the girl you were really into and couldn't get hard?
Yes. That's always been my age-old question, man. Oh, my goodness. And I definitely had both things happen.
That's hilarious. So did I. Girl you're really into, but your performance is really bad, or you tried to have sex with a girl you were really into.
Yeah, so think about it. Here, let me do it. So both girls you really liked, right? You really liked both, right? So both of them, you got the space and opportunity to make it happen, right?
Okay.
On one hand, the whole thing went down, but you knew like your performance was bad. Maybe you came in like 2 minutes, right? So you finally wanted to be with her. You get with her and you come in like 2 minutes. The other hand, you finally get to be with her and you were nervous, whatever, and you just couldn't get hard and it never happened. And she's like, yo, what the hell? And you're like, oh my God, we really wanted to be with her. And you couldn't rise to the occasion. Which one is worse? That you had a really bad performance or that you couldn't get it up?
I think it's going to be the can't get it up, because even a bad performance, I think that, you know what? Hold on. You know what? I think it's the opposite. I think it's bad performance is worse, because if you couldn't get it up, you might think, okay, whatever, maybe I'm not feeling good, certain reasons or whatever like that.
Yeah, but wait. The part that goes along with they couldn't get it up is then you never had another chance. So you never got the opportunity again on both, right? So if the last impression, so I'm helping. If your last impression was either A, you couldn't get it up, or B, you did and your performance was really bad, what's worse? Because remember, in your head you might be like, okay, well the first time I couldn't get hard, but maybe next time I did. Like, no, you never got a chance again. That was the girl you really liked. You got your one opportunity and it never happened again. So what's
the second one for sure, because you never got a chance to even be inside of her and whatnot and stuff like that. The first one, you might talk about you more than the second one, but if it's for you personally, you're like, well, damn, at least I got inside her, even though I wasn't that great. At least I got it a little bit. The second one, you never even got it. So definitely the second one for me.
So here's what I'm gonna say. What haunts me the most is when I had a bad performance, right? It's not that the girl's talking about me, but it's just like, man, like it is like, I can't believe it happened and I was so bad. Like that haunts me more than, okay, well, it just didn't happen. I mean, I wanted to so bad, but guess what? It didn't happen. Now, yeah, to your point, if we're a selfish guy, we can say, listen, I still smash. Right? A lot of times in life, I was like, listen, I still smash. But what haunt me, especially again, remember, I didn't say just any girl, right? So it didn't matter. But the girl you really, really wanted and you got it, but your performance was bad and then it never happened again, that's what haunts personally would haunt me more. Now, if it just didn't happen, like, man, I had my chance, it didn't happen, but I don't have, my mind doesn't go so crazy besides, damn, I can't believe that didn't happen. Because I had situations where both happened, right? Where a girl I really, really liked and it never happened, but that don't haunt me. Like, yeah, I think about it like in the past, like, I thought about it like, dang, that's crazy that didn't happen. But it's like, all right, whatever. Because you don't have that much to really let your brain go on. But damn, it didn't happen. Like I was right there and it didn't happen. Like, seriously. But then at the moments where it's like, it happened and it was just like, seriously? And so you have that, you wish it could happen again so you could redeem yourself, Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting.
I get it. For me, it would be that I never got it at all, because I always like damn, I never got a chance to get up in there and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So I think that would be haunting me, because at the end of the day, like, time is going to go on, time's going to pass. So even though I had a bad performance, I'll maybe get over that eventually. But the fact that I never got it, I think that would hurt me a little bit more and whatnot. Right. So especially if you're saying I don't get a chance to redeem myself or whatever like that, that was like, oh man, like, yeah, I don't even want to discuss that stuff. That's like scary or whatever like that. So, all right. Let's go to the next.
Oh wait, hold on. And any guys watching, let us know also. I want you to comment. I'll be curious to know which one you choose.
All right. So we're almost at 2 hours, bro. So we gotta kind of.
Bro, you went in on that whole damn BET story.
Because you started anyway.
I was sitting there being quiet, and you went like I was waiting for Rough Ryders. You went the whole thing with No Limit, which I don't care too much about, but it was cool to know all the stuff Master P did. But anyway,
it was more about your whole thing about the CEO, and then you talked about 50 Cent from a whole other podcast. Anyway, that's another thing. One gotta go. Prince, Michael, Beyonce, or Whitney.
Oh, say it again. I couldn't hear you.
Prince, Michael, Beyonce, or Whitney. One gotta go. For you.
That's easy for me. Some people might hate me for this. I never been a Prince fan ever. I personally don't think Prince had great music. Like Prince has never made one song. No, he actually made one song I really liked that didn't even come out that you could buy, physically buy. You had to actually download it. My favorite Prince song is called "The Greatest Love Song Ever Been Sold, Not Told." And my sister had a CD. Yeah, it was a CD. I think you had to order it or something. She had a CD. I was like, what is this? And it was just the song with different versions of the song. It was like 6 different versions of the same song. And I was like, man, I really like this song. And a lot of people probably never even heard the song before. Yeah, I never was a Prince fan. I never thought he had good music to me. When people compared to Michael Jackson, I was like, are you kidding me? Whitney Houston, my favorite dance song is "Oh, I Want to Dance with Somebody." That's one of my favorites. Whitney, whenever I think of the best singers, vocally, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, and what's her name? That sung Genie in the Bottle. Christina Aguilera.
Christina Aguilera.
Those four is always for me. So Whitney is amazing. Michael, I ain't even gonna bring up Michael's name. And not for nothing, I'm not a Beyonce fan now, but man, the album with Halo and the one after that, those was, man, look. So Prince gotta go.
So I'm keeping Beyonce because, you know, even just Destiny's Child Beyonce, I gotta keep Beyonce because Destiny's Child was part of my youth, stuff like that. Whitney, come on, man, that's Whitney, man. Like the 80s Whitney, 90s Whitney, 2000s Whitney, it doesn't matter, man. Plus, like, and the vocal, like you said, like it's just ridiculous. I'm with you. I'm not gonna bring up Michael. So actually, we agree. Prince gotta go and whatnot. I'm with you. I never was a huge Prince fan. Even when he died, they're like, "Yo, you gotta hear his catalog. You gotta hear this song." And I'm trying, but I just don't see the greatness here and stuff like that. The comparison to Michael to me is ridiculous. I agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. I get they're both 80s icons, I guess, at a certain point, but just sonically or musically, I never was a huge Prince fan and whatnot. Yeah, and I thought that, like, I know he was like one of the originators of having like the rock and roll and with the R&B type of stuff and whatnot. But just because you did it first, don't mean that like it sounds great, to me.
I agree.
And to me, it just didn't all mesh well together. So like, I know women liked him a lot as well, but again, musically, like right now, like Drake now, for example, I don't like Drake. I just don't. You know what I'm saying? So, for me, I just never was a Prince fan. So.
Yeah, I agree with the Drake thing. You guys was talking about this, and I was watching a video for Food for the Culture, and I was like, man, I wish I was into this because everybody was going on how great Drake was, and I was like, probably for my kid's age, but I just don't see it. But
right, the same thing and whatnot. So I get he does numbers because Banks is big on who does numbers, but numbers don't always tell the story. Like Master P, same thing, right? Numbers don't always tell the story of how good you are as an artist, right? So that's what I would say. This one's just for you, and I want to do the special topic for Anthony. I'll let you read it.
All right, so it's what you think of this game systems.
It should be when you think. I'm sorry.
Oh, when you think of game systems. What game immediately comes to mind pre-2000s? So when I think of Nintendo 64, Nintendo, so Nintendo, Super Nintendo, is that what you're saying?
It's Nintendo, which is by itself, Super Nintendo, Sega, and the PS1.
All right, so when I think of Super Nintendo, I think of there was this Ninja Turtle game on a Super Nintendo, and it was really cool on Super Nintendo because when you played it on Genesis, it didn't have the same sounds and the effect that it did on Super Nintendo. So I'm trying to think. It was a Ninja Turtle fighting game. So on Super Nintendo, it was like the better game. So, and at the time, I didn't get a Super Nintendo till later on in life. Like I was an adult. I was always a Sega guy. And so I didn't own a Super Nintendo until I was like late in my 20s, probably. So, but that Ninja Turtles game, Ninja Turtle fighting game. If you look up Ninja Turtle fighting games, it'll definitely come up.
Oh wait, you skipped Nintendo though. Regular.
Yeah, regular Nintendo is Mario. Come on, man. Like,
all right.
Yeah, Mario. Yeah, that's just a given. Contra probably. Contra was a big deal, but Mario is just an undisputed Nintendo game. Period.
Sega.
Man, I was a huge, so not Sega Master System was like first, and then it was Sega Genesis. So tell me which Sega, because Sega Master System, this Rambo game was amazing. It might have been called Rambo First Blood, but I feel like they never reduplicated that game. This game was really cool. It was the first games, like a little video on the screen, show Rambo like tie his thing and lace up his boots and put the knife in the side, and then you was running around shooting like helicopters flying in the air. So it's super epic. On Sega Genesis, man, maybe Alter Beast was like serious. You're like a human, you're fighting, and then you turn to a werewolf, then you turn to like a bear, you turn to this dragon that was flying. that was such a super epic game. On PlayStation 1, I kind of want to say Tekken, because Tekken like really took fighting games to the next level. But Final Fantasy 7 was like something out of this world. They made a one-handed controller that I used to have, and I actually gave it away. I should have kept it. That thing probably worth thousands of dollars right now. But yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy 7 was amazing. It's crazy that they finally remade it after all these years, and I didn't buy the remake. But Final Fantasy, like a lot of people I know never beat that game, and I have the honor to say I did beat it. I didn't do all the crazy stuff that you do where you fought the super weapon characters underwater and all over, all the secret. I never unlocked Knights of the Round Table, which was a huge secret to do, but my friend did it. But yeah, so Final Fantasy 7 for PlayStation.
And I skipped N64. So that's it. But.
Oh man, Nintendo 64 or Mario 64? Yeah,
Okay.
Mario 64. When that was like the premier game for that, and I always bought systems the day it came out. So I was actually working at Sears, selling video games at Sears in the Funtronics department, and I actually bought, like, I can say this now, years later, or allegedly, but allegedly I put a Nintendo 64 to the side, so when it actually went on not on sale, but when it was able to be sold, I made sure I got one day one. Allegedly.
All right. Allegedly.
Well, Wave Race 64 was pretty cool too. But yeah, Mario 64.
All right. Okay, so when
the
you
first time you got Mario in 3D, that was epic. Because Mario was always 2D at that time.
Yeah, and that came from a meme I had too, by the way. But for Nintendo, Mario for me. Super Nintendo,
look at that.
Wouldn't that be Mario Kart? Well, that's Mario Kart came out first, right? Super
Nintendo,
yeah. So for me, it'll be Mario Kart, actually.
Okay.
Because that's what I first think is Mario Kart. And these are my favorites. These is what I first
think.
think
What comes to mind, yeah.
Right. Sega, of course, Sonic.
I forgot all about Sonic.
Yeah. PS, I agree with you with Mario 64 for the 64 and whatnot, because wasn't he like flying? When he first started flying with the cape and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and that's the game that came on and said, "It's me, Mario." When the first one said that, yeah, that one, and PS1, it's weird when I think of it. I think of you gonna laugh about this, WCW versus NWO, actually, the PS1.
Oh wow, that's crazy. All right, that's cool. And I mean, Nintendo 64, maybe I should have thought of No Mercy, because they had that's when the wrestling games was like incredible back around that time. Like to me, No Mercy's still the best wrestling video game. That game I was talking about was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters.
I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I remember the WCW versus NWO game because at that time WCW was so big. It had like 65 characters in it or something like that. It was crazy. Yeah. It was like the first wrestling game to have that many characters to choose from and stuff like that and whatnot. So I remember that being so huge back then. And it was like, with the music and the moves, it was a really well done wrestling game for back then. I remember. So, move forward with that. All right, next, you're up, man. Book of questions.
All right, here's the thing. How long have we been going? Because I feel like we could always just, because your versus questions usually we pick, but you kind of just asked me a Whitney Houston thing. You asked me about the Nintendo thing. I feel like we could kind of drop the book of questions in a thing, and we could do the one thing that you skipped, number 6.
All right, cool. We'll do that. All right. So, scary thought. How will we be able to tell the difference between the coronavirus and the flu? I guess you're talking about during flu season.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
So this hit me probably a month ago. I was at work and somebody was like, or maybe the radio, but somebody mentioned it, and I had that thought like, oh wow. And they was like, yeah, just imagine when the flu season come around and people go to the doctors like crazy just to get their flu shot and stuff. Like, it's gonna be real crazy because people aren't gonna know if you got the flu or, the symptoms, right? Like, yeah, they'll check your temperature, but it's still the flu, right? So, like, how full are the doctor offices going to be, the hospitals? It's going to be like chaos when the flu season come around.
I mean, you would hope that that if the world is still partly shut down, you'll still have people not, interacting with each other as much as they've been. So, and then because we're already wearing masks, right? And so we're doing now what we should have been doing for flu seasons for years. Right. So we're wearing masks, we're sanitizing, we're disinfecting, all this type of stuff. So you will hope there's even less flu that people get. So I think that will be, the hope of it all.
So are you saying that we should have always been, when we leave our house, wear masks?
Not that part, but the sanitizing and the disinfecting, we should have been doing a lot. I myself personally, I don't know how many times I walked into the barbershop and shook everybody's hand in there before, I went somewhere. And I'm sure between my time there and my time getting back home, I touched my face.
No, you're right. And me and Sandy was talking the other day, and I said, I don't know why. So when they tell you procedures to do, right? They tell you, you can wear gloves, but then they figure gloves probably is the best thing. Make sure you wear a mask. When you walk in the store, clean your hands, right? I don't know why. And I thought about this when Chloe was trying to make fun of you of having your little personal carry bottle. But I feel like the government or CDC should have said, listen, everybody almost mandatory to have their own little bottle of Perel or something, right? And any interaction, like you could walk up and say, hey man, how's it going? Give somebody a handshake, give them a hug. And then instantly you're supposed to reach your hand in your pocket and, and wipe your hands off. Why is that not a thing? Because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they do say keep sanitized. They don't say anything about, they don't put that in the rules. They really should.
Yeah, think about it. That would be so, like you said, you shake a bunch of hands, again, in the past, right? But even now, like I'm like, even when I see somebody and I handshake them, like let's say somebody come in the house and they say, hey, how you doing? Give me a handshake, whatever. I don't want to be rude after I finish talking, but I walk in the bathroom and wash my hands. When me and Sandy walk in the house from somewhere and I was out, not even touching people, I just instantly walk in and wash my hands. I'm kind of weird like that now. Not weird, but you probably should. But just imagine how much more effective it would be if I had a little bottle on me and I'm in the supermarket and I touch this and that and I walk out the door and I whatever. Or I'd be like, yo, what's going on, man? How you doing? All right, cool. Like it would so help.
I do that now. I got a little bottle of me everywhere I go. Stuff like that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That part made me think of it. But the flu season, when that comes up, man, I feel like it's gonna be its own pandemic. Could be anyway.
Could be. Yeah.
They're gonna have to.
I think that was part of the reason why a lot of the schools backtracked on opening during that time period was because of that. Like, I don't know what's going on with your daughter's school, but mine, it started out, they were going, then they were going 2 days. Now it's just they're closed until January. So I think that January.
Oh, wow, January. No, ours, Sandy, when are the kids supposed to go to school? Or they don't say, I thought it was in October. When are the kids supposed to go into the school build? Well, Sandy's daughter got to go 1 day out of the week because she goes to tech school. And in tech, you need to actually work on things, right? You got to be hands-on. So she's in cosmetology. So she's going 1 day out of the week. But think about it. If you only got kids coming 1 day out of the week, you could really separate them and not have that many kids in a class,
Yeah.
I'm not sure when my daughter is going to school, but I know.
They say they're holding off to see what they want to
do. They're going to hold off to see what's going to happen. So, but school starts September 9th.
But I think part of that is the flu season, right? If we're going to get them in, let's get them in after the flu season so they're not at least passing that around and whatnot. Yeah. That's why you get that January whole, thing or beyond. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, or beyond,
after that. So I think with some of the natural precautions that we've already taken might help with the flu season. But to your point, the symptoms are almost exactly the same. So it's very, very hard. I think with the flu season, if you do get the flu, first of all, it's going to give you a fear that you got coronavirus.
Right.
So you may have to still get tested for corona, and then it'll be like, okay, you don't got corona, but you got the flu. So you still
or imagine the person who doesn't think they got corona and go for the flu and they find out they got corona.
Yeah. Well, that's true too. You might think you got the flu and only got corona and stuff.
Because think about it. Having coronavirus nowadays is a lot of preparation. One, is your job going to pay you if you got a quarantine? Because I'm talking about if you don't even have, like, you don't even feel bad, right? You find out you got the coronavirus or you was in contact with somebody that had the coronavirus, right? And then, like, you're like, oh, man. So like, are you going to get paid? Is your job going to be one of the jobs that's like, hey, you just got to quarantine yourself, get your doctor's note that you no longer have it and come back to work. But did you lose out on pay? Like, so it's more than just fear of health, because a lot of people are actually getting it and they're fine. They just don't want to transmit it.
And how do you quarantine, let's say in your house where you got 5 people or whatever there, stuff like that?
Thank
like,
you. Yeah.
How do you quarantine and from everybody else? It's almost impossible. And then if they get it, now they got to quarantine, stuff like that.
Right.
So it's
and then is everybody's job going to pay them? You know, I got adults that live here, my kids that they work. My daughter's a supervisor.
Right. Then she mad at you like, Dad, you gave it to me. That's my job.
Right.
Stuff like that. So
you gotta go to work.
Like, right. So it's like that's the worst part about it, I would say, the whole quarantine situation, especially if you do have to, you know, because if you go test for it at that point, it's on the books. So if you just go to work and don't tell your boss nothing, they wind up in legal situations.
Yeah. Like so here's what's crazy. I know somebody, I won't say names, but I know this girl who said her boyfriend ended up getting fired. So it all started because he was just letting them know, hey, just to let you know I had got a test. So it all started from, okay, well, if you got a test and you can't come to work. Well, he just got a test on his own. I just wanted to, you know, get a test on his own. So then they was like, oh, well, you can't come to work. And so then when he couldn't come to work, it was like, okay, now you're not getting paid. And then it ended up being where they looked bad on him because he couldn't come to work. But it was like, what? But I got a test. So it was almost like he should have never even said anything, but he had to legally, right?
It's on the books.
Yeah, to let him know that he got a test. And then it spawned from a whole thing that then he didn't feel good one day and they said, if you don't feel good, you still got to come to work to let us know in person. So he went to work, said, I don't feel good in person. And they said, okay, cool, you could go home. And then they ended up firing him. It was like a whole thing stemmed from him getting that test and telling his job that hey, just let you know I got a test.
And you got to think, if you take a test and let's say you get it and you say, I'm not going to tell my bosses anything, and then somehow somebody else gets it and it traces back to your test, which is now on the books, that can cause legal ramifications.
Yeah, man.
So
yeah.
You got to say, yeah, I tested positive and stuff like that, and just take the consequences that comes along with it. So, yeah, that's definitely the scary part of it and whatnot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, one of the branches, I never told you this, but one of the branches at my job, somebody had got it. So they had to take everybody out the branch and send other people from other branches in there to help out. And we had to call every customer that could have been there that week and just let them know, like, hey, someone in our branch had it. Not saying, you know, just letting you know, you should get tested and we'll pay for it if you can't get it free or whatever. You know, it's your option. We will pay for it. Crazy.
Wow, man, that's just it's crazy. So I'm hoping. So to your point, man, it's tough. I'm hoping the precautions we've been taking already will keep the flu down this year, because again, it's kind of the same precautions that you normally, that you're taking for both viruses, and that we don't have to worry about it, as much as we normally would. And the kids not being in school, movies and restaurants still only being 25% capacity. You're still going to lessen the spread of the flu as well as the virus by doing these things. Now, how long we got to do it for? Who knows? They're working on the vaccine, so who knows?
Right,
I mean, you think it's going to be a different way forever? It's crazy. You were the one who were like more optimistic, but now you think it's always going to be like this. I don't think it's always going to be like this.
Well, I don't think forever, but I think until we get 0 cases. Until we get 0 cases, it's always going to be that person. It's going to take 0 cases, again, I said this before, it's going to take us to have 0 cases for 6 months straight, right? In the world. Well, if it's one person out there with coronavirus and is on record, there's going to be a lot of people that's scared. But once you have 0 cases for 6 months in the world, I think the world will go back to normal. Until then, that's what I feel. Because 6 months is a good time for people to be like, all right, it didn't come back. We're good.
You think for the whole world, if we never have 0 cases for 6 months, it'll never go back to normal?
Yeah, because how could it? Wearing a mask isn't normal. Well, in the United States, anyway.
Right, I know that's what I'm saying. So, I don't think it will ever go back, like not for a very, very long time. But I don't think we'll ever have that either. I think it's got to be like 10 cases. I don't know, whatever, like a very, very small number. Because to me,
so it only takes one person to infect the whole country, right?
Right. You're the one who always said we're about the money, right? Economy.
Oh,
I
heck,
think if there's 10 cases in the whole country, you're going to see those stadiums filled with people for sports, wrestling, and all that stuff or whatever like that. I
oh
don't
yeah,
think
you're
they're
right.
going to.
But what I'm saying is, if you could see that, but you're gonna see probably 40% of them wearing masks. That's not normal in the United States. In other
Right, right.
countries, people have been wearing masks for like you go to like Japan where it's a lot of smog. That's nothing new. I contribute. I say the coronavirus remind me of when my wife and I went to Mexico for our honeymoon. When we got off the plane, they said, hey, you can't drink water. It was like such a no water out the faucet, no water. If you only water you could drink is bottled. We was like, what? And they was like, I mean, they made it red tape, like it was like coronavirus. You gotta make sure you clean your hands. Like wear your mask, wear your mask. So I think of in other countries, they're used to certain things that's a restriction, like water. Like what water? I can't just turn. That's such a simple thing for us to walk in the house and flip a thing and you can fill up water and put water in the fridge and freeze it or whatever, get ice cubes, so for me, until we have 0 cases for 6 months, I feel like 6 months is enough time for people to be like, okay, I don't need to wear a mask anymore. But if we got 10 cases and we have a stadium full of people, at least 30-40% still going to be in there wearing masks. That's not normal. So
Yeah, I see that. No, I get you. I guess I meant like the rules won't be to wear masks anymore at those stadiums. I don't
right.
feel like that'll be. But people still wear them.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying the rules. You probably could walk in like, dude, it's not that serious anymore. But it's gonna be people like, what? I seen over in Venezuela, they've had 10 cases.
Right. Because I told you, like, and Vince McMahon, all of them, they missing this money, man, and they're gonna want to eventually get it back.
But not for nothing. So you brought it up. I didn't. Dude, tell me you've seen the WWE Thunderdome. They built this new state-of-the-art thing. So WWE had got rid of fireworks. I don't know if you noticed, but they said every show it costs about $30,000 to do fire. I think I brought this up a while ago. They got rid of fireworks. So the Thunderdome they was having it in the small the Performance Center, right? So all this time, who knows? They was building the WWE Thunderdome. It's like their own personal stadium, and it is amazing. They did the basketball thing. They got screens with people on them from their house watching it through, on screens. And it looks amazing. They got the fireworks, the electricity and the lightnings and the flashes. It's like, I feel like, dude, I could watch wrestling like this without the fans because the fans are on the monitors. They got hundreds of monitors like as if people are sitting in the stadium. Like it's like this futuristic type electronic feel to it. It looks cool.
That's pretty cool. But
yeah, they started 2 weeks ago. So on Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views, they do the shows from the WWE Thunderdome. Right. You gotta check it out.
But if you're a live WWE person, that means it won't ever come to your city, then, right? So you kind of like
correct, because they always do it in the same place. That is true.
Yeah. So I don't know if that'll be the answer, but
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure eventually they'll start going out. But I feel like they made the answer to watching it on television. I feel like because you even hear the audience. So one thing you missed too was it's empty and you only hear the guys talking. Right now you hear the crowd scream. Like it reminds you of regular wrestling with the audience. Now it's just like it's like in the digital age. It's like you see the people on TV. On the it's like digitally you're there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I think wrestling is, and this is an off subject, I think wrestling doesn't actually, it's not as big of a deal as it is for like other sports and stuff like that because they miss like, if it's in one place, then the other team is not getting the home court advantage and stuff like that. Sure. In wrestling, it might have played a part like if let's say, back in the day, it was in Texas and Austin was fighting. He'll have the home advantage.
Well, not even that, but what does play advantage is like Drew McIntyre just won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania, his very first WWE Championship. So it was a shame that there was no fans to go wild. So yeah, it is those moments that's going to be missed. Like he even said it. It's like, he was upset. They had a docuseries. He was upset when he found out that he was going to go for the title at WrestleMania and it was only going to be in a performance center with no fans because everybody wants to win. WrestleMania is the greatest moment in wrestling. period, every year. And that very last match for the title, when you win, is like a coronation. The fans like celebrate you, and he didn't get that. So yeah, let's not cut wrestling short. You know, a fan thing, for me, it isn't that big of a deal because I don't care, but it's a wide thing that, like, not even a home advantage, but just not having, when certain championships are won and the fans give you that coronation, your celebration, they just, you know, or even a bad guy, when they boo him like crazy and you get that great reaction. That's part of wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's
bringing it on back, man. Yeah, I'm just hoping that it won't be as bad because we're doing these things that we're doing right now. And hopefully, you know, like I said before, man, we keep these things up forever. Whether it's a pandemic, just because you'll spread the cold, the flu, whatever, if you're sanitizing more, if you're spraying down more. I mean, the scary part about this coronavirus the fact that this coronavirus was so scary, the benefit is in the future, it will probably help us lessen even a common cold because people are going to sanitize and, you know, do things a little bit more, stuff like that.
I agree.
That's my opinion and whatnot. But anyway, we're done. Sorry, folks. You know, it's been a couple weeks, so we had a lot to talk about. But you know, hopefully you enjoyed the show. Either way, we'll be back hopefully by next week with another one. As we said, look out for our reviews we've already done of New Mutants and a spoiled discussion. We should also have a Tenet review, you know, coming to you soon. And always like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for our show, please throw it out there. Anything else, Ant?
Man, you just touched on everything. You killed it. I just second everything my brother Mike said. And with that said, we are out.